Hey everybody, this is GGB, and guess what, guys? I got the biggest upset of the day yesterday. Not to brag, but I did in fact nail it when I picked Rutgers to upset Illinois. It was one of only two upsets yesterday. Technically speaking, Texas Tech over Baylor wasn't really an upset, but I count it because it counts by my rules. But it still was the biggest upset of the day. So let's go over what happened yesterday in the two conferences that actually did have an upset. And let's start off with the Big Ten. The Big Ten, obviously, Rutgers upset Illinois, which makes Purdue now the first place team. And this, if you're a Penn State fan, which I am, I'd like to point out it could not have worked out better the past two couple of days. Not only did you win, but Minnesota, the team that was right behind you, lost. Indiana lost, which means you're only about 2 games back from them. And Northwestern lost yesterday, which means Penn State is now the 10 seed, which is, again, I will point out, so important to being that 10 spot, because I don't know all the other conferences and how they do tournaments, but I've been watching the Big Ten tournament since I've been like 13. I know had 5 years of watching it. I know how it works. So the 10 spot is so important because you don't have to play day one. So number one, you don't get tired. Number two, you don't have the chance of getting upset. Now, I don't really feel all that worried about Nebraska upsetting me, but there crazier things have happened. But it could not work out better for Penn State. On the other hand, it couldn't worked out better for Purdue. Purdue now sits in first place in the Big Ten. Wisconsin's a little bit disappointing because if Purdue had also lost, and Wisconsin would be tied for first place in the Big Ten. But Wisconsin is now tied for second with Illinois. Illinois now, if the season ends today, would be the 3 seed. So rough fall for grace if you're the Fighting Illini. And if you're Rutgers, man, are you close. You really are close to that 4 seed. And if Rutgers keeps playing like that, I don't know how they keep them away. But big win for Rutgers. Kind of disappointing for Michigan State, but you sit at 9-5 in the 6th spot. Fell 2 spots in the matter of 2 days. Kind of rough if you're one of their fans. But Big 12, on the other hand, Baylor ended up having a big loss, which is great for Texas. Texas now has a 1-game lead in the win column, 2-game in the loss column. So great for Kansas. Absolutely phenomenal for Kansas. Great for Texas Tech, too, because now they're tied for first place. As I said before, tiebreaker goes Baylor's way because they have a 1-game better record than Texas Tech. But Texas Tech hanging right in there, has a chance to possibly win the 1 seed. At the very least, could get the 2 seed in the Big 12, which is very, very important. Good job by the Red Raiders. Anyways, let's go over the games we have today. We're going to go over some obscure conferences today. We're only going to go over 3, but they're going to be 2 of them are going to be ones we don't go over very often. The Ohio Valley Conference, the American Conference, and the Pac-12. We go over the Pac-12 a decent amount, but the Ohio Valley Conference and American we don't go over all that often. We just started Ohio Valley, so let's get into it. 6 o'clock, we have Austin, PA, which is at 10-14. Traveling to number 21, Murray State, which is at 24-2. Murray State favored by 19.5 points on ESPNU. So, Murray State sits at 14-0 in conference. Again, a win or a loss isn't going to do much to them outside of it gives Belmont and Morehead State a chance to catch up. Austin, PA, on the other hand, a win would be pretty nice for them. Austin, PA sit at 6-8 in conference, in 5th place behind 6-7 Southeast Missouri. If Southeast Missouri State was to lose to Tennessee Tech today, then Austin, PA could move to 7, and they were to win. If they were to pull off the upset, Austin, PA could move to 7-8 in conference. Southeast Missouri could fall to 6-8, which would mean Austin, PA could move into 4th place in the Ohio Valley Conference. Pretty dang impressive, if you do ask me. Austin, PA could be right behind they're not going to pass Belmont and Morehead State. Morehead State's a good basketball team, and so is Belmont. So, I don't see the passing either of those two, Austin, PA, but you kind of want the 4th spot. That's what you're shooting for if you're Austin, PA. Basically, that's the Ohio Valley Conference. Not a lot to go over there. Oh, I guess we could go over what happens with a loss. I forgot to touch on that. If Austin, PA was to lose this game, they could fall to 6-9. If Tennessee State was also to win their game against South SIUE, which stands for SIU Edwardsville, Anyways, if they were to win their game against them, which is likely, Tennessee State is a significantly better team than SIUE, then Austin PA would fall to 6th place in conference instead of 5, with Tennessee. Actually, they would enter a tie for Tennessee State for 5th place in the conference. Anyways, that's what's going to go on with Austin PA. Oh, sorry. At 8 o'clock, we have UCF, which is at 15-8, traveling to number 14, Houston, which is at 20-4. Houston favor at 13.5 points on ESPN2. Anyways, the American has been kind of interesting, right? Oh, dang. SMU lost to Temple, and that's a huge kind of upset. Oh, my gosh. It's really kind of heartbreaking if you're an SMU fan. That's a one you kind of needed to stay in the race, but now Houston has a chance to build on that one, get a one-game lead going if they pull off a win here. They've lost 2 straight. Big game you need to win this one against the Knights, basically. Houston, with a loss, would fall to 9-3 again, tied for first place in the American with SMU. If UCF was to win this game, they can move to 8-6, which, let me get out my handy-dandy calculator here that's online. 7 divided by 12, which would be Temple's record, would be a 58.3% win percentage. UCF with a win would have won 8 out of 14 basketball games, which is 57. So barely short if you're UCF from passing Temple, but a win would be pretty huge nonetheless. UCF with a loss would fall to 7-7 in conference, which would be just above Cincinnati, only because Cincinnati has a 6-6 in conference record. Exact same win percentage, but UCF has 1 more basketball game, so they would be ahead of them. Anyways, that's what's going on in the American Conference. The Pac-12, on the other hand, we have a lot of games. All the teams that are ranked in the Pac-12 are playing today. At 6:30, we have Oregon State, which is at 3-20, traveling to number 3, Arizona, which is at 22-2. Arizona favored by 26 on the Pac-12 network. 10 o'clock, we have Washington State, which is at 14-10, traveling to number 13, UCLA, which is at 17-5. UCLA favored by 8.5 points on FS1. And 10:30, we have Washington, which is at 13-10, traveling to number 17, USC, which is at 21-4. USC favored by 10.5 points on the Pac-12 network. So, again, I'd say it a lot. I believe Arizona has this Pac-12 locked up, at least the 1 seed. I just don't see them losing it, right? Arizona with a loss would fall to 12-2. Not a huge deal for them. Even if USC was to win their basketball game, they'd be 11-4. Still a game back in the win column and 2 in the loss column. So, again, not a lot to be worried about if you're Arizona. USC with a win loss could fall to 10-5 if Oregon doesn't play, which I don't believe they do. Oh, actually, Oregon does play Arizona State today. If Oregon is to win their game and USC was to lose their game, Oregon would move to 2nd place in the Pac-12. And right now, 2nd place is coveted because I don't believe Arizona is going to relinquish 1st place in the Pac-12. If USC was to lose their game and UCLA was to win their game, by the way, USC would fall to 10-5. UCLA could move to 10-4 and take 3rd place in the Pac-12. If UCLA was to win and Oregon and USC were both to lose, then UCLA could move into 2nd place all by themselves. Anyways, UCLA with a loss could fall to 9-5. And if Washington was also to upset USC, they would also be at 9-5 and enter a tie with UCLA for 4th place in conference. Anyways, that's what's going on with those teams. Washington State with a win can move to 8-6, and Washington with a loss. So basically, if you're a Cougars fan, you're rooting for your team against UCLA and then rooting for USC to beat Washington, because if UCLA beats Washington, then you both sit at 8-6 in conference. And I believe the tiebreaker would go to Washington State in that instance. So that's what you're really kind of hoping for if you're a Cougars fan, or if you're a Cougs fan. Washington State with a loss could fall to 7-7 and drop below Colorado and Stanford. If Colorado and Stanford both don't play today, Colorado actually does play Cal today, so you're going to be watching that game pretty intensely. And Stanford plays Utah today. If If Colorado and Stanford both win their games, they could move up to 9-7. If they were to both lose their games still, and Washington State was to lose their game, Washington State would still sit at 7-7. With Colorado and Stanford both sitting at 8-8, they would still move past them. So worst case for Washington State, if you lose this game, regardless, you are going to fall to where you sit now, 6th place. You could fall to 8th place, which is really kind of heartbreaking if you're a Cougs fan. You lost 3 straight, which kind of sucks. Also, you have Oregon State playing. Not a huge deal, but if Oregon State was to win this game, which I understand, upset of really the freaking year, 26-point underdogs. If they were to pull it off, 10-game losing streak just to end it against Arizona would be pretty crazy. But if the Beavers were to somehow pull off this miracle, they would have moved to 2-12 in conference. Not a good record, mind you. But if Utah was to also lose their game against Stanford, then Oregon State would move into second to last place in the Pac-12 instead of last place in the Pac-12. Yay! Says all the Beavers fans everywhere. They're so excited their team isn't the worst. I find it unlikely we had an upset today, guys. I'm sorry. Right off the bat, I don't think Austin Peay or Oregon State has any chance of upsetting their ranked teams they're playing. Sorry, guys. Just not going to happen. I mean, UCF has a team built together this year, and Houston has been struggling. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be absolutely just floored if it happened. I'm going to go with Washington State over number 13 UCLA. I understand I'm picking the lowest underdog. You're still 8.5 points, guys. It's not like I'm going just on a safe branch here. If I get this game, by the way, somehow I'm going to hit it by Thursday. I will have hit 4 by Thursday, which is pretty insane. I got 1.5 points yesterday, got half a point on Monday, and I got 1 point on Tuesday. I got the most amount of points possible for all the days except for Tuesday so far. It's pretty crazy. I think I hope to keep this streak alive, but Washington State, at least the Cougs, they haven't been playing phenomenally well, but they have shown they have the ability to play extremely well and can compete with this level of competition. UCLA is definitely, if I had ranked them, I think I'm more scared of USC right now than I am of UCLA. UCLA obviously has not been playing well as of late. You look at UCLA, they've lost 3 out of their last 4 basketball games. Obviously, the Arizona one on the road is kind of conceivable. It's a game you probably should have lost. Arizona State game, probably should not have lost that one. That was a game that you likely should have had. You beat Stanford, which is good, but then you also lost to USC the next week. The schedule doesn't get super easy from here on. If you're UCLA, you still get, obviously, Washington State today. Saturday, you get Washington, Arizona State on Monday, Oregon on next Thursday. Then you play USC to finish off the regular season. You play Washington one more time. I mean, this is not an easy schedule to go down the stretch if you're in the Pac-12, but, almost no major conference has an easy stretch to go down the stretch, unless you're, playing in the ACC, where really anyone below Syracuse is not a good basketball team. You should not lose to them. But then, on the other hand, UNC showed that you can lose to just about anyone in the ACC when they lost to Pitt yesterday. Anyways, my pick's the Cougs. Everybody, this is GGB saying adios amigos and go Cougars.